My name is Dana Piaski, and I am a sophomore from New Ulm, Minnesota. This is my first semester studying history here at Waldorf University. My research paper sought to explore a story that I've heard since I was very young. In 1941, my great-grandfather Robert J. McCluskey volunteered to serve in the United States Navy just ahead of America becoming officially involved in World War II. He graduated from St. Mary's College in Winona, Minnesota with the titles Fireman Second Class and Machinist Mate Second Class. While on a Navy ship in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, he began showing symptoms of appendicitis. With no possibility of formally testing or diagnosing appendicitis, my great-grandfather underwent surgery to remove his appendix. The appendectomy was performed not by a surgeon, but by a pharmacist mate or a medic with no formal surgical training. The crew had to get in touch with another U.S. Navy ship nearby over radio, hoping there would be a doctor or surgeon on board to get directions so the surgery could be performed successfully with no complications. Despite the familial ties I have with the story, right from the start I realized there was not a lot of information regarding my great-grandfather's experience. The story was not, to my knowledge, recorded anywhere, forcing me to go off of an oral story passed down for generations, leaving me with a handful of unanswered questions. The book Battle Station Sickbay by Jan K. Herman was my greatest resource in an attempt to tie up some of those loose ends. This book gave me access to two other in-depth stories of appendectomies performed by pharmacist mates Wheeler B. Lipes of the USS Sea Dragon and Thomas A. Moore of the USS Silversides during World War II. Both of these stories gave me insight on how these procedures were performed, from the anesthetic used to the amount of pressure these untrained surgeons were under to not make any mistake, both of which were missing from my own grandfather's story. Apart from Battle Station Sickbay, resources for my overarching topic were few and far between. There were many times I found great sources that would have fit perfectly within my argument and given me the proper context I desperately needed. However, many of these sources were behind a paywall and would have only allowed me to access them for 1 or 2 days. Because of this, I still have many questions that have gone unanswered regarding the logistics of recovery after a surgery performed so informally. With no actual surgeon on board and no equipment to formally test for and diagnose appendicitis, pharmacist mates and other medical personnel had no other choice than perform old-fashioned tests. These tests included the rebound tenderness test, cough sign, and percussion tenderness. The most common test, which is still used today, is the rebound tenderness test. This test consists of a doctor's hands being pressed against the area a patient is feeling pain and holding there for a few seconds. If the patient experiences excruciating pain when the hands are lifted, that is a telltale sign of appendicitis. One of the latest additions to my paper was the history of the Navy in an attempt to explore the progression of the medical department. The biggest issue in each of the instances of appendectomies I discuss is that there was no surgeon present on any of the naval vessels. During my research, I found that this was a direct consequence of the Great Depression, which ravaged the United States the decade earlier. The Great Depression caused the Hoover administration to make budget cuts to every branch of military, with the Navy seeming to get the brunt of it. Traditionally, Navy medical personnel have always assisted the Marine Corps, and with tensions rising in Europe, many of the Navy's resources were redistributed to other branches of military. These budget cuts and relocating of resources directly led to the informal surgeries being performed in the 3 stories mentioned throughout my paper. After news of Wheeler B. Lipes and Thomas A. Moore's emergency appendectomies was relayed back to the medical department, Navy Surgeon General Ross McIntyre practically banned the surgery from being performed this way without a licensed physician. Instead, Navy medical personnel were given a step-by-step guide on what to do to treat appendicitis non-surgically until the patient can be taken to shore. Because of this new rule, in many instances of appendicitis recorded on submarines, the illness caused the ship to leave its area of operation entirely to get the sick patient treatment.